There we go. All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Going Parabolic. I've got Matty here. We're not going to be talking about anything crazy. We're going to be talking about NFTs. So I'm super excited about this. We've made some investments in the space, and I think Matty and I were kind of bantering back and forth a little bit on Twitter, and he was kind enough to agree to come on the podcast or the live stream. So welcome, Matty.
Thanks, mate. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no worries. Can you kind of tell people kind of who you are just to start, and then we'll dive into it?
Yeah, so I started with just, I guess, investing in cryptocurrency back in 2017, August, mid then. And then, rode the wave up, rode the wave down, didn't sell. And, for me, that was what cryptocurrency was. And then kind of came across this project called Decentralized Land where you could buy and sell digital land. And all I knew back then, I didn't know what NFTs were. All I knew was that these were assets that lived on the blockchain, and they weren't like cryptocurrency. They were various values, right? Depending on the coordinates you buy. So for me, NFTs was just Decentraland. And so for the first year, 2018, 2019, first 1 or 2 years, I was blogging about Decentraland, and then the NFT space is now covering like anything that you can stick value to that is a unique asset. So things like art, etc. So we can dive into that later. But yeah, basically I just blog about the space, tweet about the space, bring awareness to the projects that are doing good work, and just try and be involved.
Yeah, and what's your background? Just to kind of put a person with a kind of picture here.
Well, I studied engineering at uni, and then I worked for a couple of years in like some civil engineering firm. I didn't like it at all. More of a hustler, more of a business-minded person. So in the second year, I quit, and then I've done digital marketing, so running like e-commerce stores, 6 to 7 years after that, and then doing a lot of Facebook ads and a lot of paid advertising for companies and all kinds of stuff. So I did that for 6 to 7 years, and then 2017 was when I found crypto, and then I dived full time in 2018 when NFTs were a substantial share of my income.
Excellent. And are you guys doing okay in regards to COVID, wherever you are in the world? I believe are you in Australia?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, and we are just starting to do okay. If you asked me this about a month ago, we were like at a very scary time where it was like a second peak. But yeah, now we're doing good, and we've slowly started to ease our restrictions so we can visit 25 kilometers plus legally. But yeah, we're doing all right, man. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, it's scary times. So
yeah.
Now I like to approach these technical things like I'm a kid or I'm explaining things to children. So I don't mean to patronize anybody who's listening, but that's just kind of how I learn. One, got to get it simple. Two, have to try it. So I get a lot of smoke because I buy NFTs, or I go on token sets, or I mess around with Ethereum or DeFi. People are always popping at me, but nonetheless, that's how I learn. So can you, in the simplest way, without leaving anything on the table, explain what NFTs are?
NFTs are, I don't know how technical we want to get, but
however you want to play it.
So basically, NFTs are ERC-721 tokens, or that's the Ethereum standard. Multiple projects like Wax have their own standard, but basically they represent a unique asset on the blockchain. So, for example, they stand for non-fungible token, and fungible tokens are cryptocurrencies that we trade every day, where one XRP is equal to one XRP, one Bitcoin is equal to another Bitcoin. So those, in economic theory, call that fungibility. So non-fungible tokens are where two assets are not equal to each other. So I can have a digital land that's coordinate 00, which is right in the center of a world, and then one on the far outskirts. I can't simply trade that and be like, hey man, do you want to just trade this for that? They have separate values. One art piece has a separate value to another art piece. So non-fungible token, so that's called non-fungibility. So a non-fungible token is a token that lives on the blockchain that represents one of these unique pieces. And the value proposition there is suddenly you have this publicly verifiable, unique, you can track the ownership of these assets. And that's why we're seeing people invest in different industries within the NFT space, where like that NFT could represent a sword. That sword lives on the blockchain. You can take that sword to maybe one game, to another game, to another game, whichever project recognizes that NFT token, and then opens up the doors to like airdropping people with that, like 100 of those swords, so that they have another shield or something, or maybe even sharding it, where you're like fractionalizing this NFT and having an opportunity to invest in the ERC20 equivalent. Maybe you shard it into 10,000 pieces. So like it's opening the doors of a lot of things. And yeah, that's the technical terms in, front face value view. It's pretty much anything digital now that has some sort of value. So it started with crypto kitties, pets like Axie Infinity, then digital land. Now it's taken over the art world. Soon it'll be like blockchain game assets, skins and things will start to be NFTs, where if you buy a skin in maybe Fortnite, maybe World of Warcraft will recognize that skin because it's an NFT, and they'll say, hey, everyone in Fortnite that has this skin in our game, you have a pet. So you can do that with NFTs. So hopefully that was an explainer.
It was very good. Let's spend a little bit of time where you started in Decentralized Land or virtual land. Explain really what that is to people, and then why it's significant in the NFT space.
So for me, and I want to really bring it back to the reason why I invested without just without living out anything. And to cut the crap, for me, it was just like digital land that I could buy and sell. Everyone was buying and selling land, and I was like, oh man, I can negotiate these lands for much cheaper and then sell them to someone else that comes in who wants this specific area for a little bit higher, and I can make some profit in between. For me, that was what the NFT space was, because I was coming from a cryptocurrency background, right? And then Decentraland.
So hold on. This is a virtual real estate play. And
Yeah. Sorry, I should explain that.
No, it's all right. It's just, again, it has some of the economics and strategies that you would deploy to regular real estate, but it's virtual.
Exactly, yeah. So it's basically a big city called Genesis City, all divided up into 45,000 ownable parcels of land, where if you purchase them, you have deploy rights on those lands. And eventually in first quarter, we'll be able to jump into VR, but at the moment you can build things like conferences. People are building art galleries because obviously art's becoming a big thing. They can bring their NFT art, plugging it into Decentraland. Now they have a virtual gallery on their virtual land with virtual art. And then, this space was very exciting because some of the closer to the centerpieces were going for like 500,000 mana, which is 50,000, 60,000 USD right off the bat. And then now the record set sale was like a couple of $100,000. And yeah, the more lands you have, the higher you can build. So the more lands you have joined up. So those are becoming rare, where you can get like big lands joined up. So we have had game companies start to approach us wanting to build out full-fledged game experiences. So it's like an attempt to be some sort of metaverse where you can go in with your VR glasses and have like all these experiences you want to try, from conferences. I kind of see it as a visual version of Ethereum. And I know it's a far stretch at the moment because Ethereum is its own beast, but it's kind of a way to bring those experiences visual. So for example, if you're farming in a DeFi pool, maybe there's an experience there that shows your, farm growing, or some sort of vegetable patch growing that represents, the tokens you've invested in. And we actually have companies, and I can't disclose who, that have approached me that want to build those sort of experiences, large scale companies. So it's kind of like, because you can integrate with and communicate with smart contracts and blockchain, it can be this thing that represents the blockchain community. So anyway, it's become a really cool project, and in the last 1 year it's gone public, and now they're kind of polishing it up, and now people are holding conferences and events, and there's hundreds of people jumping in and doing all sorts of stuff. So
yeah, are there any virtual real estate people actually trying to represent or sell the land? So is there like marketing strategies around this, or is it just random interest? Like I pop on CryptoPunks and decide to buy 4 of them, totally, there was no pull, there was no advertising, I just decided to go check it out. Is there anyone actively promoting this?
Are you talking about the NFT space as a whole, or the
I'm
land
talking
market?
about this specifically. I'm just Decentraland. Land. Are there virtual real estate agents that are marketing their lands and promoting them to drive the value up?
Not really. In this, the kind of project and the people involved with the project are promoting it as a whole. And one of the issues with DCL is that you look at it from the bird's eye view, and you look at all the map stuff, and you can't really understand where the communities are forming. You have to really dive deep and figure out, okay, what's going on here and what's going on there. It's kind of like looking into a city and being like, well, what's happening in all these locations? It's quite difficult to figure out, right? So they need to make that process a bit easier. But I don't see anyone individually going out and promoting their land. In fact, now we're coming to a stage where for the first 1 or 2 years, a lot of the purchasing was speculative in the sense that they thought they were all thinking if they buy land close to a road, it'll have more traffic value. It was all based on what we think would happen.
Yep.
Now, because we have, a certain area called Crypto Valley where we have, Binance headquartered there, Matty headquartered there, GDA Capital, Game Credits, MakerDAO is coming there, a couple of other companies that are, putting their spots there. And we're seeing land around that area becoming valuable because OpenSea and other projects want to jump in and they ask, okay, where are the corporations setting up? Or the organizations seem to be that area, and that's building out. So for me now, I'm thinking, wait a second, maybe there's an opportunity to build out city areas, and then increase the value from like a center point of view, and then kind of sell in packages maybe these other places of land, because there's so many people, some VCs have approached me asking, hey, we want to build a gallery for our art, where do we buy? And there's not that many hotspots. They're so scattered. Maybe there's an opportunity here to really build a space out and package it up, basically to emulate the real world. And this thought hit me just a couple of days ago, and I was like, well, we might be going in this direction. Yep. So, it is evolving. I mean, the market is only 2 years old, but yeah, I do see it going in this direction.
And Matty, is there any way to wage war inside this world and just take what you want?
No, but there's a district called Forest District, and it reminds me of when I used to play RuneScape. I don't know if you ever played that, but there was like this wilderness where you could just go in and just like kill people and take this shit. So
okay,
maybe there may be an area.
You said like real world, and the real world is about taking people's shit. So if you build something, I just wonder, there was going to be like security and maybe.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's a lot that can be done to promote like activity, and you can even have your own news station. Jason's out on the warpath taking people's shit in Decentralized Land. I don't know, but let's move on. How do NFTs play in the gaming space? You touched on a little bit of like skins and Fortnite, but like take me through that, because I think that's a huge space. I can't believe that right now we really don't own the things that we buy in a video game. Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason for me to tell you guys how big the gaming industry is. We all know multi-billion dollars. Like, Fortnite alone raked in, I don't know, billions of dollars of cash, but we have, everything involved in that. The gaming industry is on a massive trajectory with esports and everything. So obviously the market is there. And right now, I mean, for the last 2 to 3 years, we've all kind of known, the gaming industry is going to be in the NFT space, but there hasn't been a polished game. There hasn't been many polished games. And one of those reasons is because it does take time to build out a great game, right? It takes like 1, 2, 3 years of development, of beta testing, of making sure all the bugs are out there to have something polished. And then it takes another year of building that community and momentum. And then, it takes time to build out this stuff. So we are starting to see indications of games that are doing well. And I want to bring up Axie Infinity, which is just one of probably 3 to 4 handful out there that look really good. But the difference with Axie Infinity, which is kind of like a pet universe where you can own Tamagotchis / Pokemon looking creatures, and you can battle them in a 3 versus 3 kind of setting. And that's been the case for the last year, but now they're kind of opening it up into like a massive universe where you can own these and feed them and take them across to your friend's house. And it's like a Axie universe, and then you can go into dungeons and battle monsters, and they drop items, and then that'll increase your points. And, it's becoming a much bigger thing. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because for the past year, the user base that are actually playing the game, and this is something we don't see in the crypto space where people actually use the product, right? It's all about the coin. And come on, tell me, like, these multi-billion dollar, even Bitcoin, like no one freaking uses Bitcoin.
Use it. I think it's stupid to use Bitcoin. Like, why would you buy anything with Bitcoin when it's exploding up in price? You're just going to be the pizza idiot.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, Bitcoin has its place, but it's not being used. And a lot of these cryptocurrency projects, they don't be used. So for me, Axie Infinity, it's like, wait a second, we actually have a project that the user base that play it is growing. So, people, it's gone to like thousands of players now, and their tournaments every month now bring thousands of players. And I can't imagine, and I've invested in some of their assets, some of their NFTs. So how the NFTs part of it worked was that in the pre-sale, you could have purchased one of 3 different types of these pets. So you could have purchased a beast one, an aqua one, a plant one. It was an egg, and then it evolved. And then when you bought it, it hatched, and you got a certain type of Axie which had 6 random parts to it. So, and those random parts made up which attacks it had. And then now when you battle them 3v3, you know, they have a different strategic parts. So some of them might have like a really strong, some of them might be really quick and really strong, but they may be really, you know, weak in the sense that you can kill them easily. They have very little hit points. So they've got those kind of battle mechanics to play. But those original axes, they had a chance of having any of those parts become what's called mystic parts. And those mystic axes, there's only a handful of them. There's like about 1,100 or 1,200 of those mystic axes out of like hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of axes now. Right. So those are the ones that are appreciating, whereas the other ones can be bred, and you can't breed axes and have like mystic parts. Those mystic parts only exist in those axes. So we've seen them go from like 0.5 Ethereum to now, today, there's 7 Ethereum floor to get any of them.
Incredible.
So you know, you have your NFTs that you invest in, and then you have the NFTs, like maybe you can buy some of the axes that are maybe good at battling, and they may be planned, blah, 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 based on your strategy. They may be like $5, $10, and they're in abundance. There's no scarcity involved with people buy those NFTs to play the game. So, you know, there's those that you want to invest, those that you want to play the game. And that's kind of, we're starting to see like projects like Axie figure out good battle mechanics where NFT, like if you just come in as a whale, you can't just buy the best axes and dominate. There's still strategic play it here, right? You can just spend $50 and still be a very good kind of candidate to win the tournament. So
very, very cool. And I don't know if you followed this, but it looked like the guys at Delphi Digital had made $160,000 investment in some form of collectible. I'm not familiar with it. Do you know about that transaction?
Yep, totally know about it, man. So yeah, so if you purchased in the early days, right, you had any of your parts being mystic. So some people got lucky and got one of their parts being mystic, one of those 6, and they're the ones that are selling for 7 ETH at the moment. Some of them got even more luckier where 2 parts were mystic. So one actually had 2 parts mystic. Some of them even got more luckier and had 3 parts that were mystic, and there's maybe like 7 of them in the world. And then some of them got extremely lucky and had 4 parts that were mystic, right? And you can probably figure out the chances of that is very, very slim. So Delphi Digital, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they made an investment into a quad mystic and a triple mystic, I believe. So these are extremely rare, and they're kind of like, there's only like 1 or 3 of them in the whole game. And I think that Delphi Digital as well, and I think I read this somewhere, but they're the company behind figuring out the tokenomics for Axie's new token. So Axie is about to drop a new token. So I'm like, so for me, it was a buy signal. It was like, wait a second, maybe they're going to drop the token to those weighted favorably to people with mystic Axies, because they represent people that purchased in the early days and those that are interested in investing. So for me, it was a buy signal. So I actually went in and bought, you know, my set of mystic Axies for like 3 to 4 Ethereum. I just bought the floor 10 to 12 available at the time. And since then, yeah, it's gone to like 7 ETH, but that's what they did. And they invested in those extremely rare Axies.
Incredible. You know, I follow Pokemon, don't own any. Fascinated by, you know, collectibles though. As a kid, collected baseball cards, still collect all kinds of things, cars now, bigger baseball cards. But I have a lot of respect for the Delphi Digital team. And when I saw that, I knew they were onto something. I thought it related to what you were talking about. I'm glad that it did. All right, cool. Tell me about marketplaces. So, you know, when I think about collectibles, you need liquidity. There has to be value. You need people who want to transact this. Where do you do the transactions?
I think it's really good you touched on liquidity. And, you know, liquidity in the crypto space. And do you come from a trading background or?
Well, I run, I'm a general partner at Morgan Creek Digital with Pomp and Mark Yusko. So
right.
Yeah, we manage money. I've done a bunch of crazy stuff, but
sorry, man, I live in my little NFT bubble. So like, I'm just in the Decentralized Land bubble, slowly reaching out. So, you know, I came across your stuff and I was like, oh man, this guy has 50,000 followers. How have I not known him? So yeah, liquidity. So it's good you touched about liquidity, because some of these projects, you know, during the pre-sale hypes, they go nuts. You know, baseball cards, NBA Top Shots, F1 Delta. You know, people come running and they want to buy the most scarcest assets, and that's great. It has their pre-sale, but then 3 to 6 months down the track, if they don't have enough new people coming in, liquidity dries up, and suddenly those same assets, if you want to sell them for that price that you bought it for, there's no one there to buy it, right? And that's a huge deal in the cryptos in the NFT space, and that's why I personally look for high liquidity projects. And this is project specific. So even though marketplaces like OpenSea and Rarible and certain markets where it's so Rarible and OpenSea are marketplaces for everything. It's kind of like the eBay or Walmart, but you want to look at projects. So each project has its own marketplace because its own industry, right? So you want to be diving into a project with high liquidity. So what I normally do is go to OpenSea rankings, and that shows me the last 7-day volume of each project. And I just wait. I wait to see if these projects can keep that volume for 3 months, 6 months, 7 months. For example, the art industry, super rare. For a very long time, it was trending at the top. And for me, I was like, all right, that's great. Maybe it's a once-off thing. Because, you know, we have pumps in the cryptocurrency industry. So I just left it. I'll let it go. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, it was still there. And I was like, all right, wait a second. I really have to figure out this art industry. And I had no idea what the hell art was about, right? That's when I got in, and that's what prompted me to figure out what's going on and then look into it. But yeah, liquidity is important. And the marketplaces, it's not so much about the marketplaces, it's more about the projects that you want to dive into first and make sure that there's what's going on. Like you can check on OpenSea the recent sales, and you can see each artist. It does take a lot more research than cryptocurrencies because it's not a skim over the top and looking at a chart. Right now, there's not that infrastructure built yet where you can look at a data website that you can absorb information for. It does take a lot of due diligence at this stage. Maybe in the next 6 months, there'll be some very nice data websites.
Yeah, Matty, I would say that I agree in totality. I had a pretty interesting situation happen, and that's why I wanted to get your opinion on marketplaces. I'd like to dive into it a little bit. So as part of Pomp and I's strategy around NFTs and art, we have gone directly to artists in the digital space and commissioned works for them to do, then purchase those artworks and put them in reserve. Our intention is to have one of the world's largest collections of really valuable art done by some of the kind of founding fathers. So that's what we did. And we took one of the artists named Ferocious, and we let that cat out of the bag, and we showed one of the pieces of art called Innovator's Dinner. And that's where it got kind of weird. So Innovator's Dinner was released, and then people bid on it, and it's sitting at right around, I think there's an offer for 35 ETH for this piece of art, and Ferocious is amazing. Check it out.
100% is amazing.
Here's where it got weird. So I get a notice or a DM from Ferocious, and like heartbroken. Someone took a screenshot of the work, went to Rarible, minted an NFT, plagiarized everything about Ferocious's, even down to the hashtags, how it was represented, never once referencing the artist's work. Now, I own art. I'm sorry, people are calling me. I own art, and some of it's not real. I have no problem with replicas, with knockoffs, and what I call fake Gucci. But I don't want fake Gucci if I'm buying real Gucci. And that's where I have a problem. So I run into, mental giants like Peter McCormick, who says NFTs are all garbage. They're all screenshots. I own your NFT. Look, I own your NFT. And I said, no, Peter, you don't, because this is the address to where the artist minted this NFT. That's the one that I own. And you go sell your screenshot, and then I'll sell the one that I own that was minted by the artist. I can show provenance of that. And if you sell yours, they're buying fake Gucci or a screenshot. I don't think that they have the same assessed value. Am I mistaken here? Have I missed it?
No, I think you're right on the ball. But if we rewind it all the way back centuries, right? Obviously, none of us were alive, and I don't think there's much research done into this. But I'm sure the guy that painted.
Matty, speak for yourself. I'm timeless.
All right, man. Well, I didn't exist centuries ago, so
You're
Yeah,
obviously
if you
inferior. I have these mystic parts. I have
well,
5.
there you go. There you go. Maybe you did. Maybe you
I'm
did.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just got that reference. Smart, smart. Yeah. So, if we rewind it back centuries ago, I'm sure the first guy that, drew on a piece of rock, a piece of art, and was amazing about it, I'm sure he had haters that say, hey, I can do the same thing. But it's not about that. It's not about it being the same thing. It's about the artist. So if you own that piece of rock and you can trace it back to, well, in this case, it's not a rock, but if you own that piece of painting and you can trace it back to Leonardo da Vinci or someone really famous, that art piece, even though there's probably artists today that can make the one-to-one exact damn thing, even probably better than him, right? It doesn't have the same value. And this is what, to me, the art industry, for me, for a very long time in the NFT space, it was just like, dude, people can just make more and more supply. Why does any of this have any value? Until it clicked to me that it's the artist and the artist's journey that brings the value to these NFTs. Then it clicked, and I was like, wait a second. When I buy art that's provable coming from this specific artist, I join them in that journey. The bigger they grow, the more famous they grow, the more bigger my investment becomes. From an investment perspective, that's when it hit me. And I was like, I don't care how many knockoffs there are. There may be many, but they're not.
The knockoffs drive the value up, right? If people are trying to bootleg and barter and swag out fake Gucci, there's a reason people are wearing fake Gucci.
Exactly.
So yeah. I just want to make sure, because for me, like, I hold strong convictions loosely, and if I'm mistaken, I want to learn. So when I hear someone as illuminated, as powerful, as grand as Peter McCormack saying that the thing I just spent $12,888 is just a screenshot, and Hackatow is worthless, it's kind of bothers me a little bit, because one, Hackatow needs to eat. I value the work. I paid tens of thousands of dollars for it. You can screenshot it, but it's not the same, even though it's identical.
I think some of the times they just want attention, to be honest. Peter McCormack and maybe a couple of others that don't know what's going on.
I like Peter. I'm just playing when I say all this stuff. Although he's not a Manchester United fan, and in that he's not that intelligent. But keep going.
But Peter or maybe others, but I've seen them kind of jump on the NFT bandwagon when there's a lot of energy, because they want to say something and be involved in the conversation, right? So I'm sure if they understand the value of blockchain and having assets of any kind on the blockchain, I'm sure they find the value of having NFTs on the blockchain. But during that time when Peter made that comment, I think NFTs were representing the art world. And so when people were saying, I can screen grab your NFT, well, yeah, you can screen grab that picture and upload it. But you can't screen grab like a pet in a digital world or a sword in the digital world that has no value of screenshotting, even though that's an NFT. So, the NFT industry is wide, very, very wide, and it's going to have different use cases and different importance based on different communities. But I'm just here to watch what happens. I may be a hater on a lot of these industries at the start, but you can't argue against the momentum, the millions of dollars spent between collectors and artists, and hundreds of artists now being involved, and hundreds of collectors now being involved, giving it value, and it's just getting bigger and bigger stably for the last 2 years. It's not a hype period. It's been very stable growth for the last 2 years. So yeah, we're probably gonna see spikes, but it has that stable growth, which for me is very important.
There have been some amazing marketable, I guess, like cornerstone events. I would say the Trevor Jones Picasso bull, important. The block, I think it's block 21, Christie's release, and that was a physical representation of a crypto project, but there was an NFT associated with it. It was huge. I enjoyed watching that sell for $130,000. Then I think Trevor came back with the fellow who draws Batmans and stuff, and they sold hundreds of thousands of dollars of NFTs. And some badly dressed dude shows up in his crazy clothes and buys all this stuff. It's
painted clothes, yeah.
It's really amazing, and it's exciting, and the artists are benefiting. They're benefiting. They're getting to transact in this situation in a totally new way. Like every time those NFTs change hands, as I understand it, the artist benefits again from that transaction.
Yeah, can you imagine, Jose Del Boro, who's the comic artist in the 1960s, he's 87. At 87 years of age, you think like, you're retired and, you've done your thing. Now, I talked to his grandson, Nick, who I'm pretty close with because he has a spot in Decentralized Land. He's pretty heavily involved in that space. And he manages a lot of the work that Jose does. And so, he's always like, man, my grandpa's so excited. I've never seen him this excited for like decades.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful to see. He puts out those videos and, people value his work. He's got this huge community that is valuing his work once again. And it's a new community. It's not like the people that he went to, conventions with, etc. It's the new people like me that didn't read the comic books, but, I watched the Marvel. I know the importance of Batman, etc. And I'm like, man, I'd love to own your pieces. So, I own some Jose Del Boro. I actually own a lot of Ferocious's art as well. I have 4 pieces.
Oh, wow.
So I was a very early very early collector. And I actually messaged Ferocious back in the day, and she had 4 pieces that were up for sale. And then I asked, hey, I would love to buy all of them. And I did that purchase. And then Ferocious made a video. And then I realized a week later or 2 weeks later, you guys did that commission piece. And I was like, damn, it's so cool to have so much support for this artist and these young artists, only 17 years of age. Incredible.
Yeah, incredible. So the last point I want to touch on, which I think to me is one of the most exciting, our fundamental thesis back in 2016 was all stocks, bonds, currencies, and commodities would be digitized. And with that digitization allows for computer-to-computer discussion or transfer of fractional ownership. And it just disrupts so many verticals when you're dealing with assets. And I'm an investor in Masterworks. Masterworks, you can buy fractional ownership in physical art pieces, but it's not digitized. It's not on the blockchain. I actually don't even have, I own a Basquiat, a fraction of a Basquiat, but I don't even have a picture of the Basquiat. I have an NFT of the Basquiat. They don't do anything cool with that. And these artworks are transacting. I just got to notice that a Banksy, that it just sold. It was held for 1 year by Masterworks, if I'm not mistaken. We were in at about $1 million for the artwork. It sold for like 1.6 plus million, 30% IRR, distribution to the shareholders. That's the game. But I think it can be so much more fun, and so much. It could be just done at a whole nother level with an exchange where I can trade my fractional ownership of the Banksy. I don't have to wait for a liquidity event. And I would love to have had an NFT, one of 100,000 shares or whatever the fractional ownership of that was, that I actually held, I was in possession of. Explain to me how fractional ownership, though, kind of works with NFTs and how you see it.
Have you seen Niftex, by the way?
No.
You haven't seen Niftex? They do exactly what you mentioned.
Can you send me the link?
I would.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
So Niftex, I can take that example. Obviously, I don't know I'm not a very tech heavy person, but I've seen it in action. And basically what you can do is you can take your asset, your NFT piece, whatever it be, and you can fractionalize it, meaning you can put it up on Niftex and say, hey, I want to release 50,000 ERC20s called, MA, Mystic Axis, whatever it is. And suddenly this gets this gets locked up in their custodial wallet, Niftex's wallet, and then they do like a pre-sale for your shares, and then people can come in and purchase those shares at your initial valuation. So say you put in the initial valuation at 50 Ethereum, those shards or fractions represent that 50 ETH, and once people buy it and that sells out, suddenly it's there to trade on the open market. And we've seen some Mystic Axis, some CryptoPunks being sharded. In fact, I was thinking at some stage, maybe even doing one of my Ferocious pieces or one of my Jose Del Boro pieces, which I have a one of his piece I got in early. So maybe if it's worth like one day 6 figures or $500,000, you can put it up there. And they have this really cool thing where suddenly how, people can own those ERC20s. And I think Neon District's Marguerite, coin artist, she was thinking of doing something similar, but when people own those fractions, you can take those in her game and they'll have values that are like special swords or something, right? So you're right, you can do so much with this stuff. But yeah, I've seen this in action, and it's quite that a lot of it's breaching into certain communities. For example, the Axie community use it quite often. There's some really um, rare Axies that have been fractionalized, and I see like as these assets get bigger and the collector base realizes how to communicate with them, or especially the cryptocurrency investors, and projects like Niftex mature, then suddenly you can run your own kind of pre-sale on your own NFT that you own, and you can, get that liquidity back, because maybe you want to own 50% of that liquidity. You own 50% of that initial, whatever, 60 ETH, so you own 30 ETH of it, and then suddenly that 30 ETH is out there in liquidity, which might grow to like hundreds and hundreds of Ethereum over time. And yeah, it's just like taking its own kind of route. But yeah, I will give you the link of Niftex. They're a great project.
No, I appreciate it. And what is the difference between sharding and sharding?
Say again?
Sharding and sharding. It's a very important question.
I don't know.
All right. I just was checking. I didn't know if you had ever faced an mental exploration of that. But if you don't know, you don't have to know everything. I
thought sharding is just like fractionalizing assets.
Sharding. Yeah.
How do you? What's the letter you're like changing?
T-S-H-A-R-T-I-N-G.
I was like, is this saying sharding?
Sharding. Yeah. Like what is?
You can explain that, man. I don't know. You tell me.
No, I don't know. I was wondering if you could tell me. You are the expert in sharding, and I thought maybe you knew about sharding. But let's let that go. Another time, another place. Look, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this, and I learned a lot. And I hope we continue to stay in touch. And
for sure, man.
I'd love to grab a beer with you sometime. And I would like to follow up. I own a few one-of-ones. I think it'd be really interesting to test a project where we fractionalized a Hackatow one-of-one and just and see what the market does. I would love to do that with you.
Yeah. Why not? We can definitely explore that.
That sounds great. Look, man, take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Jason.
All right, bye-bye.